Hey guys, it's Rick here with another video, and today I'm gonna do a longer introduction because I want to talk about an important topic for me. And if you wanna skip this first part, which I'm gonna be talking about the an important part of my journey, which was that I changed clubs. But if you don't care about that part of the story and you only care about the game, I will leave right there. I'll leave here on the screen the time that you need to skip ahead for the start of the game. So, yeah, just go to that time if you want to just see the game. So, okay, with that out of the way, let's start by the title. The title, thank you, um, Loriguense. Basically, I switched clubs. I was in Grupo Desportivo Loriguense. Let's just call it Loriguense. Um, and I switched this season. So the last season ended, and a new season started, and I changed clubs. First of all, I just wanna say that it was no problem with the club. Um, it was all peaceful, and yeah. So first of all, I just wanna say thank you for everything, for all the opportunities that Lodigians gave me. I wanna give a special thanks to two of my teammates, Manuel and Simão, because they saw me interested in competing and without a club, and they talked to Francisco, which is also a person that I need to thank a lot, and I'm very grateful for. Francisco was the one pretty much in charge of the chess operations in Loriguense, and he was the man who actually gave me the opportunity to start competing on a FIDE level, so more serious level, and I'm very thankful for all the opportunities that he gave me, the trust that he placed in me to compete for the team. And yeah, if it wasn't for Simão and Manuel and Francisco, I don't know if I would be doing this series or even competing, because yeah, it wasn't easy for me to find a home for me to start competing in chess and taking chess more seriously. So I just want to thank you guys for everything. There were some factors that made me change. Also one of my strongest teammates, Manuel, also changed clubs, and just in the district where I am and where the club is, there is not much chess competition. So for a person that is really taking it serious and wants to compete and improve, it's kind of hard for the place where we are originally from. So yeah, and I talked with Francisco, and he supported me completely, understood our decisions, and it was all good, all very supportive. And yeah, I can't thank you guys in Loriguense, and especially Francisco, for all the support and love that they gave me throughout this first year that I competed in chess. And now yeah, I moved to Clube dos Galitos, which I also have to thank you a lot, especially João, the president of the chess part of Galitos. Thank you for also being transferring me to that to your club, to Club do Galitos, and also for giving me already opportunities that you'll see in the future that I played for the team. And it's a very strong club, and they are putting a lot of trust in me, and they see that I really want to compete, and they give me also the opportunity to compete, which I'm very grateful for. And yeah, everyone from Loriga I have a lot of love from. Everyone was amazing, and also from what I've seen so far in this first months in Clube dos Galitos, I also love the people there and the club, very supportive, very much into chess competition and improving, and that's pretty much, that's very awesome, and that's pretty much all I have to say. If I missed anything, I'm sorry, but yeah, this was a little bit. I didn't write anything. I'm just saying stuff off my head and what comes to me while I'm doing this intro. So yeah, with that out of the way, thank you for everything once again, Loriga, and yeah. So the new journey starts here for me and the new club, Clube dos Galitos. Also, thank you for welcoming me with open arms. And so yeah, this was the first tournament as a Galitos Clube dos Galitos player, and yeah, this was a close tournament with the two groups. Each group had 8 people in it, and so everyone played against each other, and there were 7 matches. And I was very hyped because I wanted to start this new season with a pretty good result. Also, from the 8 people that were in my group, I was ranked third in terms of elo, so I was very confident, and I was very mentally driven to win the whole thing. But yeah, let's see how it went. So let's start with this match. I was playing Alberto Montoya, and he was zero with zero elo, so unrated. But after this tournament, he got 1400, so he's uh, a strong player, 1400 level, even though when we played he was unrated. So yeah, let's see how the match went. Also, he's from my club, so it was nice for my first game with as representing the new club was also against a teammate from the new club that I was in. So it was funny how things work. And yeah, let's see how it went. So I had the black pieces. My opponent started with d4. I went d5, knight f3, knight f6, e3 here. So not going for the London. Instead, playing e3, and I just go e6. So I'm pretty much copying my opponent thus far. My opponent goes bishop d3. I go bishop e7. Sort of Queen's Gambit decline setup, which is a setup that I'm very comfortable with. Castles, and knight bd2. So yeah, I just realized here that my opponent is just going for a call system, which is a very solid opening as white. Doesn't give much advantage in terms of like the computer, but it doesn't really matter that opening advantage at this level. What matters is how you play the game after the opening, as long as you don't blunder hard in the open. So yeah, knight bd2, here I went knight bd7, and my opponent goes queen e2, so he wants to play a quick e4, which is very understandable. Here, I can't really put a knight on e4 to stop this push, but I decided to just kind of keep developing my pieces with b6. So I want to put my bishop on this diagonal, which will be strong. My opponent goes e4 as expected, and here I played takes, and very very normal here. My opponent plays c3, and I play h6. Here I play h6 because not to stop bishop g5, but I was kind of having a feeling that my opponent might play something like knight g5 in order to sack on e6 and doing some weird stuff. I just wanted to play h6, stay solid, kind of ask my opponent what are his intentions, because if I allow a knight to g5, maybe this knight to g5 or something like that, and he has some pressure on f7, he has some pressure on e6, and yeah, I have to watch out for that. So I just played h6. I thought it was a decent move. My opponent here played knight e5, so he is playing aggressive chess. And yeah, here I wouldn't say I started getting worried, but I was definitely looking at something like, knight takes f7, followed by queen takes e6. If I take with the rook, for example, or thinking something like knight takes f7, rook takes f7, maybe like knight takes f6, knight takes f6, queen e6, and it was not looking very fun to play this. Also with rook e1 coming, maybe bishop c4. I started seeing some stuff, and I don't know. I didn't know him as a player, but he gave me the vibe that he was that type of guy to do crazy stuff like that to seconds and those type of plays. So here I decided to just trade pretty much a lot of minor pieces with bishop takes on e4. Yeah, and we get to this position here where I also trade the knight. Here I traded the knight because I don't know. Let's say I play knight f6 here. He will move his queen somewhere like e2, for example, and now I have to kind of deal with the threat of knight c6, which it's kind of annoying, right? To deal with this threat here. Something like queen d6 might be met with bishop f4, and I start to really struggle to find moves here. So I decided to just trade, and the only problem with this is that we kind of trade a lot of pieces early on, and I didn't really want to draw or to play for dry. Of course, I wanted to win and to create chances, but I felt like this was kind of um, a necessary thing to do. It's arguable. I don't think it was that necessary, but okay, it's still a game. And there's still a lot of chance. Here I played queen d7 with the idea to double on the d file, and my opponent goes bishop e3 here. So developing his bishop, I go rook fd8, and yeah, my opponent goes queen g4 here, threatening bishop takes h6, and I can't take because of the pin. So here I go king h8, asking him, okay, what do you want to do? He goes queen f3, and I go back to g8. And here, of course, my opponent played b4, but if he played queen g4 again, repeating the position, of course, I would have played king f8. And now if he goes back to f3, he's no longer threatening this pawn, so it's all fine, right? But yeah, my opponent goes b4, which is definitely a weird and I would say bad move. Because it should focus on probably developing, like, I don't know, rook a to d1. I think it's logical here. But with b4, the thing is that this b4 move, I mean, you can say that it accomplishes space, gaining space, but this pawn is very weak. On c3, this pawn on e5 is very weak. I mean, I'm gonna start infiltrating, and it's gonna be very bad for white and uncomfortable. So here I just do exactly that. Queen d3, infiltrating the position, targeting the weakness that my opponent just created on the last move. So very nice move, queen d3. My opponent defends the pawn with a rook ac1. I go queen c4. Now I'm attacking another pawn, and I'm blocking this c3 pawn, and kind of controlling the position very well. My opponent plays a4, which I feel like is a good move, and here I play rook d5. So yeah, just doubling on the d file. Also, my rook has to kind of come here, because let's say if I played rook d3, my rook would be hanging here on a8, and I would just be losing. So of course rook d5 is a necessary move here, and my opponent plays rook fd1, which I feel like is a nice move to try to trade pieces and alleviate the pressure. I double on the d files, we trade on d5, and here my opponent plays queen f4. which is a big mistake here. Um, but you know, here I also made quite a immature mistake, which you know uh, I would like to pause the video and ask you guys to write down in the comments what move would you play here as black, and I'm actually curious to see if you guys would play the same move as I did in the. Hope you're enjoying the video. I just wanted to point out quickly that 82% of you guys that watch my videos aren't subscribed, and I would highly appreciate if you could hit that subscribe button. Thank you. So yeah, here I played queen takes c3 exclamation mark or question mark here. It's funny, right? Queen takes c3. Oh my god, sacrificing the queen. Of course, he can't really take it because if he takes, my queen is checkmate in 1 because of the back rank. And you know, I was very happy to see this tactic, and I finally won a pawn, and yeah, I thought it was doing very well. Here, my opponent just played h3, and you know, I started regretting my move queen c3 because now it's not that simple, because even though I won a pawn and I can win a second pawn, he's also gonna have a lot of counterplay, and you know, we're gonna simplify into probably a drawn endgame, which was definitely something that I did not want to do. So here, you know, I have an option to play. Now my queen is hanged, so I have an option to play queen takes b4 or queen takes e5. I went for queen takes e5, which is the worst option. Queen b4 would have been better here. You know, he can take on c7 or he can take on b4. Let's say he takes first on c7, you know. I take on f4 here, he takes on f4, and here I have a bishop c5. Although, yeah, he's gonna pick up this pawn as well, but now, you know, we are equal material, but this king is kinda... I mean, now I take on f2, excuse me, not equal material. I'm up a pawn, we still have a lot of pieces. The computer loves my position, -2, and yeah, this is like, you can really play this for a win. It's very double-edged. My king is safer, my pieces are better, more active, and yeah, it's gonna be hard to hold for white. But here I for some reason I thought, after a long thing, I thought that taking on e5 was better because I was taking like a central pawn. And I didn't see all of this. I didn't see that all this combination that I just showed you with queen takes b4, blah blah blah. I wasn't able to calculate it well and to see that I would end up a pawn. So I just took on e5. He takes on e5. I take back on e5, and he takes on c7 here. And I take on b4, and he takes on a7, and I play bishop c5. We trade, and we reach this endgame, which I'm up a pawn, but it's pretty much equal. I'm just gonna go back now to an important part after this. So here, the best move according to the engine, there's like two best moves, which is queen b3, so not taking the pawn, attacking this one, and also here I'm threatening rook d1 check, and basically winning the game. And also the same idea with queen a2, a little bit different because I'm not threatening d1, but I'm still attacking the pawn and keeping an eye on the rook. But also good was queen takes f4 here, not winning the pawn immediately, but reaching this endgame, which is apparently like very good for black. Let's say g5 here. You have to go to g3 to keep protecting this pawn, and now yeah, the computer just says c5. You know, but this is more complicated. I mean, it might be better in theory, playing this endgame out, but you know, from like material, you know, you see that you can win a pawn, and you're like, okay, this has to be good. and you know it's kind of hard to not win a pawn when the opponent offers it to you. It's hard to not go for the pawn, but yeah, just the small decisions can actually make a difference. But yeah, I wasn't strong enough to even realize that you know Queen C3 was just inferior to all those other moves. But yeah, it is what it is. We reached this rook endgame, which is just it's a draw even though I have up a pawn. But let's see why it is a draw and what can I do to try to play for a win here. So my opponent gives a check on a8. I go king h7. My opponent attacks my pawn in here. You know, I play rook a5, if that makes sense. So here I just decided to trade these pawns, and yeah, we reach this endgame, which is 4 versus 3. It's a draw, theoretically, but you still have to prove that you can hold this, and there's a lot of tricks still. So here I play king g6, after my opponent plays g4. My opponent brings the king in, king g2, and I go h5 here. So my opponent brings the king to g3. I trade a pawn, and yeah, I mean, trading pawn is probably not the greatest idea, but what can I do, honestly? You know, the more pawns you trade, the easier it is to draw, but at the same time, how do you improve your position if you don't try to trade some pawns and bring the king in, right? So here I played king g5. My opponent goes rook b5 check, and here I can just go back like king g6, but you know, I mean, if he goes back to like b7, we're just repeating the position, so of course I didn't want to repeat. So here after check, I decided to also go f5 to block the check, and here, I mean, if he takes here, I was thinking something like rook b4, rook g4 check, and when he moved, I would take this pawn, something like that. Does it accomplish much? Not really, but you know, I thought it just, I don't know, I didn't really know how to win this position because, or to complicate this position, because in the end it's just a draw. My opponent goes f3, which I think is even better than just taking, to not allow that check. Here I play king f6, my opponent goes f4, and I just go g5 here. I mean, yeah, it's hard to say what is a good move or a bad move. I mean, if he doesn't do anything, if he doesn't capture the pawn, I guess I can just win a pawn and be winning, but of course he trades everything, and we reach this position, which is a draw if you know a technique very well, which I will be explaining. My opponent looked like he knew the technique, but let's see if he really knew it or if he just fell into that position. So here the this endgame is a draw, and let's see why. So my opponent does the correct move, rook b3. I go check on g4, king f2, and I go rook h4, king g2, rook e4, king f3, and I go rook e1. So what happened in this? So this after my opponent plays rook b3, this is called the Philidor position. It's one of the most basic rook endgames ever, and it's a very important technique that you need to know in order to draw this type of positions comfortably without any trouble or any doubt. Here, basically, the idea is that white can just even wait with the king on the first rank here, and he puts a rook on the 6th rank, and I'll teach you later why black can't really improve his position no matter what he tries here. King on the 1st or 8th rank, however you want to see it, and the rook on the 6th or 3rd, depends on the perspective, is just it's just an easy draw. It's an easy setup to draw. But you will see in the game what I mean by this. It's easier to explain while showing the game. So here my opponent goes king f3, and yeah, I play rook e1. Of course, going into this endgame, I knew that it was a draw because I have studied this endgame in books. But I was trying to trick my opponent and to actually test him if he really knew, because I didn't really believe that he knew. At least I had to test him, you know. So rook e1 here, trying to infiltrate. My opponent goes king f2, and I go rook c1 here. My opponent goes check on g3, and here is when when I thought that he was starting to step in the wrong direction, because there's no need to give me this check. But okay, king h4, my opponent goes rook f3, attacking the pawn, and I go check on c2, asking the king where the king wants to go, and actually disconnecting the king and the rook, more or less. He goes king f1 here, and I go king g4, attacking the rook. He goes rook e3, and here I go f4. And spoiler alert, my opponent blunders horribly with rook e2, which is losing. But here, it looks scary for white if you don't know the position, but just an easy technique: keep the rook on the 6th rank, or in this case the 3rd rank. Rook b3. And there's a problem for black. There's no way for black to improve. Black would like to bring his king in, but with the rook here on this rank, he can't really bring his king. So, if you give a check, you might say, okay, give a check. The king just goes like down, and there's nothing. So, giving a check with the rook doesn't really do much. So the only logical option is to play f3. And here there's a very important technique that basically white needs to know is in this position, which this position you should really look into. It's very important. This is called the Philidor position, as I said once before. And when the pawn reaches the 3rd rank or the 6th rank, you need to bring your rook back. And this is like very important, because if you don't do anything, let's say you just keep the rook on the 6th rank, now king g3, and there's a lot of problems. Black is threatening to give a checkmate here, and if white tries to move around here, black can just bring his king in, and he's gonna promote. There's no way to stop this. So when the pawn reaches the 3rd or 6th rank, white needs to bring his rook all the way back and start giving checks. And this is drawn, because there's nothing black can do. Let's say black tries to bring the king, which is the more logical, to threaten all this stuff. He's just gonna get checked, and if the king moves back here, you can just play rook f8. You're threatening this pawn, so black needs to stay around this pawn, and there's no way for black to hide in front of the pawn or on the sides. So yeah, this is just a draw. Also, after rook b8, if black goes king f2, pawn f2, sorry, black can just give checks again, and there's nothing he can actually do. He can just give checks, and it's fine. So yeah, that's the way you draw this this rook endgame with white, or with the side without the pawn. But here my opponent, my opponent was low on time, and he didn't know this endgame well, and so when I pushed f4, he panicked, and he played rook e2, which just leads into a lost king and pawn endgame. So I took the rook on e2, he took with the king, and I played king g3. And here, after king f1, king f3, my opponent resigned. This is just classical and pretty basic opposition. Wherever my opponent goes, I'm gonna go the other side. So if my opponent goes on g1, I go on e2, and I'm gonna queen. So yeah, this is was very lucky for me to win this game. Was very lucky because of course that was a draw, but my opponent didn't know. But thankfully, after this game, my opponent actually studied the endgame, and I'm sure that he's not gonna miss the draw ever again, even with like 10 seconds on the clock. I'm sure he's gonna be able to find it. And thankfully for me, I kind of knew the endgame, and I kind of tried my best with the knowledge to trick him, and I managed to trick him. So yeah, it's also good to know the endgames to try to trick your opponent or test if they know what they're doing. So yeah, this was a very long video. Thank you guys for watching, and yeah, we started the tournament with a win, which is always great, and it was very tough. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.